Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending this session, the Introduction to Clinical Pharmacology at St George's University, which is the UK's specialist health university. So during this webinar today, you will get to hear from Professor Emma Baker, who is the course director for clinical pharmacology. You will also get to hear from a current student, and then we will have a live Q&A session at the end. So if you guys have any questions that you wish to ask, please do send those in through the chat box that should be in your GoToWebinar panel. During the course of this webinar, you'll be able to see and hear all the speakers, but we won't be able to see and hear you. So please do use the chat box function if you have any questions that you wish to send through. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start. If for any reason the connection disconnects from my end, please do hold fire and I will log back in as soon as I can. And if there's any case I can't log back in, one of my colleagues will be taking over. If for whatever reason the connection disconnects from your end, then just log back in as quick as you can. We will still be here. If for any reason you're unable to log back in, please don't worry about that. What we will do tomorrow is send out a recording of this session to all those who have attended and all those that booked but couldn't attend as well. So you will be able to see and hear everything that was covered in this session today. So I will introduce our lead speaker for today, Professor Emma Baker. Hi,
Hello.
Emma.
Hi.
Okay, so over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for sparing us the time to dial in and hear all about our BSc in Clinical Pharmacology at St George's. My name's Emma Baker. I'm the course director for the BSc, and I'm delighted that I'll also be joined by Nabiha, who's one of our students, who will also tell you a bit about the degree. What I'm going to cover in the next 20 minutes is firstly why to study clinical pharmacology. I'm going to talk about what our course is like at St George's. Let's give you some idea about course requirements and tips, and then of course at the end we'll get to take your questions, so I look forward to those. So some definitions to start with. Pharmacology comes from the Greek, for those of you who are studying that language. Pharmakos means medicine or drug, and logos means study. So pharmacology is the science of drugs and their effects on living systems. And if you look on UCAS and all the places you can look at university courses, you'll find that there are about 26 different pharmacology degrees across the UK. So what's clinical pharmacology and why is it different? Well, clinical pharmacology is the study of all aspects of drugs as they relate to humans. There's only one BSc in clinical pharmacology in the UK, and that's the one at St George's. I'd first like to start by trying to explain a little bit about careers involving drugs, so you can sort of think as you're applying to UCAS what direction you'd like to go in. So I've put out here the spectrum of jobs from pharmacology on the left to clinical pharmacology to medicine and then through to pharmacy. And you can see that pharmacology and clinical pharmacology are science careers, whereas medicine and pharmacy are healthcare careers. So one question I'm commonly asked is what's the difference between pharmacology or clinical pharmacology and pharmacy? Pharmacy is a healthcare degree, usually a master's that lasts around 4 years, that qualifies you to work, for example, in a community pharmacy or in a hospital, dispensing medicines and working with patients. By contrast, pharmacology is a science career, and if you go down that route, you may end up developing medicines to treat patients rather than actually looking after the patients themselves. There is, of course, a lot of crosstalk between healthcare and science, and people who are in clinical pharmacology potentially can go on to study medicine or pharmacy, and vice versa. Some doctors then study or pharmacists study clinical pharmacology and move into the science field. So there's a lot of crossflow. So just because you make a decision now at a youngish age of school leaving doesn't mean you're stuck in one career for the rest of your life. I'd like to also just point out that this is an amazing time to be in clinical pharmacology. We are all in the midst of this awful pandemic, And every day on the news, we're hearing about new drugs, new vaccines. For example, here we are now in October. Things are very different if you get COVID now than if you got it back in March. And your chances of recovering and getting out of hospital, if you ended up in hospital or your relatives did, are better because we have better treatments. The process of us developing those new treatments and getting them into patients is clinical pharmacology. Incredibly exciting, and it never needed as much as it is now before. Next slide, please. So what do pharmacologists actually do? And I've put here a sort of circle of pharmacology. Top left, you can see in vitro. Pharmacologists study the effects of drugs in the lab. Going anti-clockwise to medicinal chemistry, they formulate new medicines. They study their effects in whole body in animals before they put them for the very first time into humans. Imagine how scary that is, putting a new molecule into people for the very first time, but incredibly important if we're ever going to have new drugs. Pharmacology involves clinical trials, proper, rigorous experimental testing of medicines. And once all that's been done, pharmacology involves assessing that evidence, licensing the drug, and then it's able to be prescribed in healthcare. We also then have a huge body of evidence now that one person can't handle. So we have to pull all that evidence together in systematic reviews and meta-analysis. And for doctors and healthcare practitioners, we need guidelines and regulations, and that's all clinical pharmacology. Once medicines are out in the real world, they can still do harms, and we have to pick up signals of drug reactions, and that's called pharmacovigilance. And finally, I guess, as we come round to the top, education, that's what we do at St. George's. So you can see that from molecule to education, pharmacology is incredibly exciting and varied. In the next slide, I can show you where clinical pharmacology fits into all of this. So clinical pharmacology is all about the study of drugs as they apply to humans, from those first in human studies all the way through to the use of medicines in healthcare and into education. And when I show you our course, you'll see how that fits with this. There's something called the Association of the British Pharmaceutical Industry, and they're the body for the pharmaceutical company in the UK. And they issued this blog a couple of years ago now, but pointing out that the UK is very short of clinical pharmacologists. It's a massive skills gap. And our course has been designed in collaboration with employers. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute, as part of a national initiative to fill this skills gap. So at the end of this degree, there will be jobs. What sort of jobs and what might you want to do? It depends who you are and what you fancy, but there's something for everyone in clinical pharmacology. Again, I've got a little circle here. You know, I seem to like these. Inside the circle, the hat represents academia, the factory represents industry, and the hospital represents healthcare. And the MHRA, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, represent something called the regulators. And you can see that around the circle, I've displayed all the different jobs you can go into with a degree like this. From, if you like, working with people, you could do clinical trials and work with patients in a clinical trials facility. If you like working in a lab, you could become a lab scientist. If you enjoy data, you could become a data manager, or you could be involved in data analysis or monitoring. If you like regulations and law and that kind of thing, you can become a regulatory officer. And if you're a great salesperson, you could even go into things like marketing and sales. There's a huge array of opportunities that you can do from this course. And we have a big focus in our course on careers and work experience so that you can find out what you're interested in during the course. For example, our year twos now have a weekly careers talk from someone across this spectrum of jobs. Of course, you can go on to further study, and lots of people who come to our degree might also be thinking about medicine. And certainly this is a great platform for graduate entry healthcare, as well as master's, PhD degrees, or simply going to work straight from the degree or into graduate apprenticeships. Our degree, as I said already, is the UK's first BSc in clinical pharmacology. And it also has another unique selling point, which is we're particularly focused on developing our graduates to be ready for work or further study in drug development and research, which means our degree is not all about knowledge and sitting in lecture theatres, but a lot of it is about learning hands-on skills and gaining research and work experience so that you're ready to go and you're going to be highly competitive in the jobs market when you qualify. I mentioned that it's designed with employers, and you can see here some picture at the top shows a roundtable meeting that we had with various employers before the degree even launched, where we asked employers what they wanted to see in our graduates, and we've designed our degree around what they say. And you can see on the left lots of comments from key people in industry on our LinkedIn, our course LinkedIn account, that are excited about this degree and it launching. At the bottom, you can see just one of the events that we've been doing with employers. You can see a careers question time panel with two of our students posing questions from the student audience to panelists about their jobs. And we now have a careers series, we have guest speakers starting to come into the course, and loads of opportunities to interact with employers. What does the course look like? So it's a 3-year undergraduate degree with the option for a professional year between years 2 and 3. In the first 18 months, you'll be building your knowledge and skills in all aspects of clinical pharmacology. In the 4th semester, which is year 2 semester B, you spend the whole time on research projects and work experience, including a 6-week placement in industry in the summer. The exams in year 2, for example, are in February, so that you can devote yourself to your research project and work experience. In year 3, you have the option to develop your special interest in particular areas of interest and develop more advanced knowledge and skills. Let's have a look at what you'll learn, and these are our main modules. So at the top, you can see the sort of science area of the degree. So you'll learn the fundamentals of science that you need to understand the drugs. We make sure that our science learning is integrated. So it's not like a degree where you learn all the science in the first year and then get to the interesting bit later in the course. We learn the science as we go along and we need to know it. In pharmacology, it has two main parts of the science of pharmacology. One is pharmacodynamics, how drugs work, and one is pharmacokinetics, and that's how the body handles drugs. And you'll learn all about that. Along the bottom are the applications of knowledge that you'll be learning about, not just about the pharmacology. This is what's different about our degree. You'll learn all about applied pharmacology, both in the drug development setting in industry, how drugs are developed, the different types of research studies, the different ways that drugs are brought from the idea to the patient. And in drugs in healthcare, you'll learn about how drugs are used to treat patients and to help them and make them better. The whole of pharmacology is underpinned by research. What we know about drugs is all from experimentation. So you'll learn all about the different types of studies and trials that are done to develop new medicines. And to understand those, of course, you need to understand data and statistics. And we have a data and statistic module that runs alongside the others. A lot of things we do in that module, for example, are analyze all the experiments and practicals we do during the degree. Next slide, please. I mentioned already that the point of our degree is to create graduates ready for work or further study. And so a lot of the degree is focused on gaining skills. From top to bottom, left to right, first you can see our students do clinical trial skills approximately every other week in first year, a little bit less in second year at the moment, unfortunately, because of COVID, but it's again going to recur in year 3 and our students will come out at the end of the degree with skills that they would need to use if they were employed in a clinical trials unit. And here you can see some students learning to take blood on a plastic arm. In the middle at the top, you can see a student doing a laboratory experiment. And alternate weeks, again, in first year, you do lab experiments and practicals. And periodically throughout the course, we have combined practicals between the lab and the clinic. And all of that information that we collect in those practicals is then taken on into data and statistics, and you learn data management skills and analysis. At the bottom left, you can see our students doing a dragon's den at the halfway through first year, presenting to an audience of dragons, including our principal and people from industry, and they were utterly fantastic. Nabia, who you'll hear from in a minute if I let her get a word in edgeways, was one of them. And our students learn presentation skills from day one when they do small presentations in tiny groups, all the way through to being able to present in front of a large audience. And you can see them, they're hopefully looking happy in the middle, doing a team working around presenting data in a poster session, and they collect information of all their skills progress in a portfolio. Often students say when they think they're coming to university, it's all going to be lectures. And of course, we do have lectures around a third of the course. And as far as possible, they're interactive. On the top left, you can see our brand new lecture theatre and students listening to Dr. Priest, one of our lecturers. Our aim is to make them as interactive as possible and to build in case studies and application of pharmacology as well as just facts. So what do our students do the rest of the time? There are two small groups teaching sessions a week. They have something called the Hub, which is all around skills development and knowledge testing. And we have drug-based learning at the end of the week, which is all about applying what you've learnt during the week in the context of real-world pharmacology. But we also, as I've mentioned, have lab practicals, clinical trial skills practicals, workshops, data analysis sessions, and a whole host of different activities. So the week is constantly varied and interesting and hands-on and not just passive absorption of facts. We call our curriculum a toothpaste curriculum. Our modules don't come one after another. You learn them all at the same time. Now that might sound very scary and confusing, but I hope Nabia will say somehow it works. The idea of this is that you don't just learn an isolated set of facts, but you learn about a topic, for example, asthma, from a whole range of different perspectives. So you learn the science of what goes wrong in asthma, the pharmacodynamics of the drugs used to treat asthma, how you get them into the body in pharmacokinetics, how those drugs are developed in drug development, healthcare. You get the idea. And you can see that the toothpaste is also a spiral. So we revisit concepts repeatedly to help students build their knowledge and skills. I mentioned that it's very integrated, and this just gives you an example. So students learn the underpinning. This is the aspirin practical that we do at the end of year one. Students learn the underpinning science about the movement of aspirin across biological membranes. In the green box, they learn about aspirin and how it moves around the body. In the blue box, they design a study to test the excretion of aspirin. In the yellow box, practical skills, they do the practical, taking aspirin and measuring the urinary excretion of salicylates in the presence and absence of bicarbonate. And then in the data and stats session that week, they do the analysis and interpretation. And that graph is their real data that they generated last year. So it's very integrated to give you a cohesive, integrated understanding of pharmacology, which is what employers say they want. I'm conscious that I'm probably going over time. I've got 2 minutes, so I'll try and speed up. I put this slide in really to reassure you that we're working incredibly hard to make sure that the university experience is still as good as possible for our students, even though COVID is here. So we still have face-to-face practicals. We still have regular live small group sessions twice a week, live lectures, online lectures. We try to use a huge variety of activities, podcasts, student learning to make it as interesting as possible. And again, ask Nabia, she'll be honest about what it's like. I thought I'd put in what our students say. It's quite a busy slide, but we asked them in many surveys. Our current second years are our first ever cohort, and I think Nabila will tell you that we have treated them as our children and listened to their every concern and tried to adjust the course to make it as student friendly as possible. And hopefully you see some of this in their comments. I think some of the things that they particularly like is that it's very personal touch. You can always approach the course team. It's fun and varied, a very cohesive small cohort, and there's a wide variety of skills and options on offer. Maybe we could just click all the way through this slide, Lanisha, thank you. So what do you need to come to the course? It's an apply through UCAS. And you can see the grade requirements there. 3 A levels, you need biology or chemistry at grades A, B, B. You need 5 GCSEs at grade 6 or B, including English language, maths and science. We do accept alternative qualifications, and we reference our website for you. And really what we as the course team secretly want, even though it says we have to have all these A levels, etc., is we want students who are motivated by curiosity, who want to be here, who are interested in learning and are fun to work with. So if that's you, come and join us. I just put up this slide. I think this is my last slide, just showing that there are loads of ways you can find out more about the course. So you can see at the top there, that's our webpage on our university site. You can contact our students through UniBuddy. We've currently got Pfizer and Tiger on there if you don't believe Nabia. You can see that we have a Twitter account, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Clinical Pharm is one of our current second year students, Edgem, who's done a blog about her experience of being on the course. So these are great ways to find out more. So I'd really just like to say thank you for listening, and I hope I've just gone 1 minute over time, and I'll hand over to the wonderful Nabila to tell you more from her perspective.
Thank you so much,
for questions.
Emma. I hope you guys all enjoyed that talk from Professor Emma Baker, and we will be bringing her back on the screen during the Q&A session. So if you do have any questions that you're burning to ask, please do send them in through the chat box, and we will endeavour to answer all questions in the Q&A. So now I'll invite our current student, Nabila, to talk to you about student life at St. George's. Hi, Nabila.
Hello. Hi. So I'm Nabila, and I'm currently studying clinical pharmacology in the second year, and I'm just going to speak about my experience as a student on the course and in the uni itself. So I came up with 5 different pictures, basically a small summary of what I experienced in my first year and in my second year of clinical pharmacology. So there's a picture of a lab and a clinical skills practical. So like Professor Baker said, we do a lot of different practical stuff, which I think is so amazing, because you actually, rather than sitting in a lecture and learning about it, you're actually physically doing it and getting involved. So we learn about it in a lecture, but then we go and actually do it. So we actually go experience this. So with the hand, we learn how to take blood, which was really interesting, because other places, it's not like you just watch a video and then you learn from that. So you're actually there physically doing it yourself, which is really fun. We also have many lab practicals. We've done lots of other clinical skill practicals. So we have done basic life support. We've also learned how to take blood, how to measure blood pressure. So you're physically doing it yourself. That picture of the trophy is from our Dragon's Den. So Emma already touched on it as well. But we spent a couple of weeks coming up with a presentation of a specific drug and presenting it to a panel of judges, including the principal of St. George's. So that was a really fun project we did, because we did it as a group, and we had a taste on what it would be like to be pitching an idea to a panel, which you might want to do in your future careers. So although it's quite daunting to be presenting and to be in front of an audience, you have a lot of support with that in the course. So we have hub sessions where we do lots of mini presentations to help gain that confidence and those relevant skills in order to do that. So a year ago, I probably wouldn't be able to do this presentation right now, but from the skills I've learned weekly and with my personal tutor, which is Professor Baker as well, you're able to learn the skills that you need to be able to present properly. So I have a picture of the tutor market. So I'm going to speak a little bit about student life at St. George's. So tutoring is a very multicultural area. It has a lot of like places to eat, places to see. So tutor market in itself, there's lots of nice market stalls to eat at, get food with your friends. They also have like a pet store where they have like animals and hamsters where you can go look. But the uni itself is also quite small. However, it's one big community. So you meet loads of different people from not only your course but from other courses as well, and you have that same mutual understanding of like being in St. George's and being in the hospital environment. So you can join lots of societies where you could find people with similar interests than you. So if you enjoy something, then you're probably going to find a society for it. However, if there isn't a society, you just make it yourself, and there'll definitely be people who are willing to join your society. The final picture is basically a group of people. So clinical pharmacology is a smaller course, which I think is one of the greatest advantages of the course, because we are one big family. Like Professor Baker said, we are treated like the little babies. So if you ever have any concerns or any worries, the course team are always willing to hear you, listen to your ideas on how to improve the course. My fellow peers and stuff, we're all willing to help each other, all willing to talk to each other. So we have that constant support from each other to be able to progress in the course itself. So because we're so small, whenever you need anything, you could just go speak to someone. You can speak to either a student or a person on the course team. So overall, my experience of the clinical pharmacology degree has been amazing so far. I've learned so much from not only being in lectures, but also physically being in practical-based sessions. So we've had anatomy sessions, lab-based skill sessions, and clinical-based skill sessions. I've gained so many new skills from presenting, from learning how to research a drug, data skills, so learning how to work with Excel, SPSS, learning how to analyze graphs. But I've also really developed my own personal skills, being able to meet new people, being able to really be part of the St. George's community, which is like an amazing thing because everyone is willing to be friends with you and support you every step of the way. So yeah, overall, my experience of clinical pharmacology has been amazing so far, and I can't wait for like the rest of the year and year 3 where we get to go on placements and we get to go deeper into the modules that you've seen Professor Baker talk about. Thank you.
You're on mute, Lanisha.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'll repeat that again. Thank you very much, Nabiha, and I hope you all enjoyed hearing from one of our current students. So just before we go into the Q&A session, I'm just going to talk to you all just for 2 minutes about contextual admissions to give you all an understanding of what it is. You guys can go off video just for a moment while I just go through these slides, and then I'll invite you back on in just a moment. So contextual admissions. So some of you guys might have already heard before about adjusted criteria. So contextual admissions is a similar type of thing. So at St. George's, you know, we are committed to ensuring that people from all walks of life are represented here. And so we want to give as much opportunities as we can to have current students from a wide and broad background. So there are 2 different contextual offer schemes that we have here at St. George's, and you can find so much more information about this on our website. But basically what it is if you come from disadvantaged background, maybe the school that you go to is a poor performing school, depending on the area you live, and things like that. There are opportunities for the admissions team to accept lower grade requirements from you. So here, for example, if you meet some of the criteria for contextual admissions, here's an example of the grades we would consider. So for biomedical science, the standard offer is ABB, but a contextual offer could be as low as BBC. And for clinical pharmacology, where the standard offer is ABB, again, a contextual offer could be as low as BBC. So this is something that we are now offering at St. George's. And the other scheme that we have is for those that applicants that are care leavers or have ever been in care. Basically, we will give them extra consideration during the admissions process and take into consideration their circumstances to potentially give them a lower offer requirement for their grades. So for more information about this, please do visit our website and you'll be able to find some information on the UCAS website also. Thank you very much. So I'll invite Nabiha and Professor Baker back on the screen, and now we will answer some of your questions. So we have had a few questions sent through. So I'll throw them out there and both of you can answer them or either of you can answer them. It's really up to you. So one question that we had is here. So it says, can you work in a pharmacy with a Clin Pharm degree? So maybe that's for you, Professor Baker.
Thank you for your question. So with a clinical pharmacology degree, you're not qualified to be a practicing pharmacist. However, you could go into a job called a pharmacy technician, where you don't require to be a qualified healthcare practitioner, but the technician does a whole range of different things. They don't work clinically with patients, but they do a whole range of things around stocking, organizing medicines, procurement, and there's a whole range of sort of careers in pharmacy, sort of technical services that you could go straight into with this degree, but it's not a pharmacy degree. If you want to be a pharmacist, you have to do a pharmacy degree.
Okay, thank you for that. And then there's another question. What's the difference between medicinal chemistry and pharmacology?
Medea, shall I do that one as well? Nabia?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I think all of the degrees that you see on UCAS that have pharmacology in the title are all different sort of ends of the spectrum. Remember I showed you that big circle that went all the way through from the molecule all the way through to education. Medicinal chemistry is possibly more of a chemical form of pharmacology, about formulating medicines that can then be, so it's more about how you make medicines, whereas I guess pharmacology is more about what drugs do. And pharmacology is sort of what they do in the lab, and clinical pharmacology is what they do in people. Hopefully that explains the difference. Nabia, do you think that sounds about right?
Yeah, I agree. That clinical pharmacology, you're working more with patients and in like a lab-based setting with and in hospitals, so you have a variety of both sides.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
And another question here. Do I need to be doing a science? Do I need to be doing science to enter, as I wasn't able to do a science A level? Maybe I'll just answer this one. So if you are studying A levels, you are required to have either chemistry or biology A level to be considered. Okay.
Nabia, what do you think? Do you think you need biology to do the degree, or chemistry, or which one do you think would be more useful?
I think biology, definitely, because you learn about anatomy. So in the first year itself, we learned about the kidneys, we learned about the heart. So having that basic knowledge before you come on the course, it will be very useful for you to help your understanding whilst in the course. So you already have a little bit of the knowledge that you need, and then you can just add on to that when you come to university. So yeah, I definitely recommend taking biology.
There were a few questions which you definitely answered through the course of your presentation. So I'm going to skip those ones out. So if I don't read out your question, it's not because we don't have it, it's because you would have heard it during the course of Professor Baker's presentation. So there's a question here, do you give unconditional offers? Well, I guess I'll answer. Do you want to answer, Professor Baker?
We give conditional offers based on your predicted grades. We don't give unconditional offers unless you've already got your A-levels, and then of which, of course, we do.
Yes.
Because you've got your exam. If you've got your grades, we can give you an unconditional offer.
Yes, perfect. And then a question here about personal statements. So what do you look for in a personal statement when applying to the course?
I'll start with that, and then I'll hand over to Nabiha for some student insight. So I think that the most important thing for students coming on the course is enthusiasm, excitement, interest, motivation, wanting to study because you want to come and do a degree, not because you just got to get somewhere. So on the personal statement, I'm looking for people who look like they're going to enjoy the journey, who are interested, excited, motivated. It's really difficult to get relevant work experience, for example, for clinical pharmacology. But if you've done other jobs, I know Nabiha herself has got a side job showing that you have ability to organize yourself, to motivated to do something outside your studies. I think I'm looking for motivated, excited, enthusiastic people. I know a lot of people will put this course as a option, as a sort of backup option for medicine insurance offer. And if you've written a personal statement for medicine, don't worry, that's still okay. What I would say is that in your personal statement for medicine, hopefully you're evidencing your enthusiasm, your interest, your self-motivation, your finding out skills, and that will be good enough for clinical pharmacology. I'm going to hand over to Nabiha because she's written a personal statement much more recently than me to give you her insights.
Yeah, so I agree. Like, it's really hard to get the relevant work experience for clinical pharmacology, but any work experience is good experience, knowing that you're putting yourself out there. No matter if you're working in a team that's relevant to clinical pharmacology, whether you're working with people, communicating. So for example, I have a side job where I'm working with in customer service. So just talking to customers, having that confidence to be able to approach them and communicate them is a very good skill that you can show on your personal statement, because any employer or any university would like to see what personal skills you have to bring to university. So you don't have to be a perfect student because you're going to grow when you're in university itself, but having just any experience will really help you. And also experience in itself is a good thing as well, because it helps you grow as a person yourself. With the personal statement, talk about your personal life, talk about the hobbies that you have. So I spoke about in my personal statement how I like baking and stuff. So even though that's such a random thing, just thinking about baking, when you bake, you follow a set of instructions, you measure out your ingredients, which you might not think, but that relates to clinical pharmacology, because you're measuring stuff in a lab, you're following instructions when you're in a clinical based setting. So talk about yourself, but always link it to something that will help you in the course.
I love that, Nabiha. And also, of course, in clinical pharmacology, we love cake as well. So that is definitely a plus if you can bake.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you, Nabiha. We have another question. Can you do clinical pharmacology with an applied science? So we do consider applied science extended diploma, level 3 extended diploma, and the requirement for that is at DDM. So if you are doing that, studying that qualification, then we would consider it, and the grade requirement is 2 distinctions and a merit. Okay. And probably another question for you, Professor Baker. What is the average annual cohort size for clinical pharmacology?
So the average is about something like about 36.5, because we have our first year, we have 54 students, and our second year we have 27.
Okay.
So it varies, but it's a small degree, and there's a close relationship between the course team and the students, which I think is really, really important. We know all our students by name. Every student has their own personal tutor that they see every week. The course team is able to keep an eye on students' progress and be there for them when they have problems. So my feeling is that that's one of the benefits of this course, is that it has a small cohort. Again, Nabiha might like to comment.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I was a bit worried about it being quite small because like you're in a university and like that pressure of just being in a small small cohort, but it's actually like one of its greatest advantages right now, because you get to speak to all the students and you actually know your course directors. So the course director, Professor Baker, is my hub tutor. So I see her all the time and I'm comfortable enough to go approach and speak to her, which other bigger courses might not have. So it is definitely an advantage.
And we do have 5,000 other students at St George's, so as Nabiha said, it's not so narrow that you're only ever going to meet a few people.
Yeah,
even
definitely.
during COVID, we have lots of initiatives like random chat, open spaces for you to meet people from other courses.
Yeah, and because you're all doing like similar healthcare degrees, you get to relate to other students on different courses as well. And because St George's is a small university, you meet anyone like sitting in the library, sitting in the common areas, like just approaching people and talking to them. Like you're always like everyone's willing to make a friend.
Perfect.
I think I might go. It sounds great.
Okay, so just a little bit of interactivity here. I'm going to launch a poll. I just want to ask the audience a question, a very simple question, which I'd be grateful if you guys could answer for me. So it should be coming up on your screens now. If you can just select your answer and then press the submit button, I'd be very grateful. I'll give you guys just a couple of minutes to do that. Give you guys a few more seconds. So the question is, how is the timing of this event for you? So we're just trying to gauge if this is a good time to have it, whether it should be earlier in the day, later in the day. So just your honest opinions. And the results are completely confidential, so we don't know who has said what. All right, I'll give you guys another 5 seconds. Thank you all very much. Okay, and I think we've got one final question that has come in before we go. Oh no, that's a repeat of a question before about applied sciences. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I'd be very grateful if you would take out a few minutes to complete our survey. So the survey will pop up on your screens as soon as we've ended this broadcast. So if you could just take a few minutes out just to answer those questions on the survey, your feedback is really appreciated. And if you do fill out our survey and leave your email address also, you'll be entered into a prize draw in January to win a £30 Amazon voucher. Okay, so thank you very much, Professor Baker. Thank you very much, Nabiha, for your insights. And thank you all for attending.
And good luck, everybody. Hope to see you in September, but if not, good luck wherever you go.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.